Welcome back to Live Now from Fox. I'm Austin Westfall. The big story of the day having to do with Donald Trump and a major reprieve for former President Trump. Sentencing for his hush money convictions was postponed until at least September, if ever, as the judge agrees to weigh the possible impact of a new Supreme Court ruling on presidential immunity. Trump had been scheduled to face sentencing on July 11th, just before the Republicans' nominating convention on his New York conviction of felony charges of falsifying business records. The postponement sets the sentencing for September 18th at the earliest. Let's break this all down with attorney and constitutional law expert Robert McWhirter. As always, Robert, it's good to see you. Let's get straight into this because there's a lot to cover here. So, in a defense filing on Monday, Trump's attorneys argued that Manhattan prosecutors had placed, quote, highly prejudicial emphasis on official acts evidence, including Trump's social media posts and witness testimony about Oval Office meetings. So, Robert, remind us, why is the idea of official acts so important here?
Well, the Supreme Court, in its opinion, had stated that presidents have immunity for their official acts, not their unofficial acts, and that you can't use evidence of what a president did while he was president talking to, let's say, the attorney general to show whether it's an official act or not. So, in the context of the immunity case, for instance, he can't. The prosecutors couldn't use his well publicized conversations with Bill Barr, as then attorney general, about throwing the elections. And remember, Attorney General Barr told Donald Trump that this was BS. He didn't say the word BS, as we know, but BS. And so the prosecutors, if they want to charge a president with unofficial acts, they can't use that evidence of what he did while he was president, talking to the attorney general, even though it's about other things. That Supreme Court ruling on that point was a little baffling, and Justice Amy Coney Barron's broke from the majority and actually joined the dissenters on that point in her concurring opinion. But that's what that is. Now, the Trump lawyers now are trying to use this in the New York case, and I find that just a little on the strange side.
You know, first of all, thanks for keeping things PG for us. We appreciate it. The justices left
Yeah,
intact the
absolutely.
longstanding principle that no immunity exists for purely personal acts. The hush money payment in question, and maybe this is what you're alluding to, the hush money payment in question happened in 2016 before Trump was president. Does that sound like a purely personal act to you?
The answer to your question is, how could it not be? He wasn't even president at the time. And I would argue that if he's doing hush money payments to a porn star while he's president, would also be an unofficial act. I mean, nowhere in the Constitution does it say the president can have a sexual liaison with a porn star and pay that person off and receive as that's a duty of the president. So even if he would have been president, I don't see how that would be. Most certainly, before he was president, certainly was not, and that's why that baffles me just a little bit. Now, the Trump people got their continuance, but as I read what happened in the record, the prosecutors did not object. So the judge, normally, when both parties don't object to a continuance, judges will go ahead and continue a sentencing or whatever hearing. So that could have been the dynamic what went on here. I'm not sure why the prosecutors didn't object.
So, for now, at least, the sentencing has been pushed back by 2 months. What is Judge Juan Merchan going to be considering during that time?
Well, he's going to be considering a lot of things, not the least of which is Trump's behavior. I mean, if Donald Trump continues to minimize his conviction, continues to assert that it was all a sham and that Judge Merchan is a conflicted judge, well, that does not show acceptance of responsibility. A key factor during sentencing, and I have represented thousands of defendants, is when they get to sentencing, they need to show some remorse and recognition of their crimes. And judges take that into account when they're sentencing. In fact, this isn't a federal case, but the federal sentencing guidelines actually give you points off of your sentencing calculation for what's called accepting responsibility. And obviously, Donald Trump publicly has not done so. So Judge Merchan is going to continue to watch Donald Trump's behavior while he is out pending his sentencing hearing. And that could go very badly for the former president.
So I want to ask you a little bit about the language that we've been following because this stuff, as usual, when we have you on, this stuff is complex. The justices left intact the long-standing principle that no immunity exists for purely personal acts, as we mentioned. Well, in a letter Tuesday, prosecutors said that they were not opposed to delaying Trump's sentencing hearing, though they did signal that they believe the effort to toss the verdict is without merit. In your opinion, what could be their argument that this is meritless, Robert?
Well, their argument is, as we've already stated, this happened before he was even president. It also, how could this, again, I probably jumped ahead of your question, but how could this possibly be an official act of the president of the United States? I don't see how it would be an issue of national security that he decides to have a sexual liaison with a porn star and pay her off. So I don't see any way that you could have fit that into a president's official duties. Um, and so again, I don't see what the factual basis or foundation for such an argument would be. And even this Supreme Court, and I was very critical of that decision as I've been on your show, but this Supreme Court did clearly say a person does not get immunity for unofficial acts unrelated to the office of president. So I'm having a hard time seeing what their motion would be, and the prosecution's agreement to delay it so they can file that motion may just be make sure the record's clear that there's no lingering issues, have that issue determined, and Donald Trump still gets sentenced, but in September rather than earlier.
Yeah, that was actually going to be my next question. What is your feel of the situation? And I have a feeling where you're going to take this. Does it feel like we will get a sentencing in September, or could we not get one at all?
I would certainly hope so. Now, his status presumably will change because he will now be the nominee, but he is not still going to be elected president at that point. He is still citizen Trump. Uh, I would imagine if a person is actually president and he gets sentenced, there must be some way of suspending that sentence so the person can do their duties. I mean, it would be awful hard to be president from a prison cell. And I'm sure the Secret Service would have a heck of a time trying to figure that one out. I mean, what do you do? Kind of have the communications office of the White House move into some prison. So I would imagine there would be some way of suspending a sentence till after he is ending being president, and then it would be imposed at that point. So I don't see that accommodation being made for a mere candidate, even though they get the Republican nomination or Democratic nomination.
So
So,
while we're,
yeah,
go ahead,
I'm
didn't mean
sorry.
to cut you off there.
No, no. So I think we're going to be back in the same place in September as we are right now.
Yeah, while we're talking about delayed trials, where does Jack Smith's 2020 election subversion case go from here? I know it's been kicked back down to U.S. District Judge Tanya Chutkin. What would be her job from here?
Well, now that's a case where the Supreme Court ruling much more directly affects it. Um, they have remanded it to the trial judge to have an evidentiary hearing as to the question of what is and is not official acts. What part of Donald Trump's behavior in and around January 6th constitutes an official act of the president of the United States, and what was just private citizen Trump who could not accept the results of a fair and free election? That's going to be a sticky question. It's going to take a long time, and there's going to be, my guess, an extensive evidentiary hearing. This will take months. And frankly, it would probably be appealed by either side, depending on what that ruling may be. Certainly, the Trump's lawyers would do it because their goal is to delay, delay, delay. So this gets us into months from now before any resolution of that issue would happen, even before you could possibly have a trial.
What are you going to be watching for next? Are we going to hear anything from Judge Merchan, or are we waiting until September to see what happens next? What are you going to be looking for?
Judge Merchan, because he has proven to be a very good judge and a very discreet and careful judge, will be as silent as a tomb. He is not going to say anything other than from the bench and in response to whatever motions get made. So we're going to hear nothing from Judge Merchan. I do expect we're going to hear something from Jack Smith and his prosecutorial team. I think if there's any criticism of Prosecutor Smith, it would be he keeps his cards a little too close to the vest and delays things. In other words, very, very deliberative. So he may actually be coming up with some things and making some pronouncements. And this is going to relate to the documents case at Mar-Lago as well as the January 6th case. And there could be a possibility that those two will be interrelated, but that will depend on Special Counsel Smith.
All right, Robert, we'll leave it there for now. As always, we appreciate your insight. Have a good night.
Great pleasure. Good night.